You want to do something big. You want to make a really big change in your life, but you feel like you're at the starting line and you can't move beyond that. You're not stuck because your leap is too big, your dream is too big. That's not why. You're stuck at that starting line because your muscle is not trained. Let's talk about that, because as someone who has made some pretty big leaps in her life, quitting my job, like leaving my career when I didn't have a backup plan, selling everything that I owned and starting over again, even though I had kids and a family, moving abroad, so leaving the United States and moving to Europe, even though I had kids, even though I don't have a trust fund. So someone who has done big leaps in her life, right? These like big gestures. I hear a lot of times people saying, like, I wish I could be you. Like, I wish I could do the things that you do. And what I hear under that is not like that they are not the same as me, because there's nothing special about me that makes me able to do those things. What I hear about under that statement is that they're afraid, and that fear and the uncertainty of how it's going to work is stopping them from taking action. So when I say I moved to Portugal, for example, not because I was brave, but because I had practiced, it's because I have practiced that muscle of doing something new, of being okay to not control the outcome of whatever it is I'm trying to do, like knowing that it could not turn out how I want. So not becoming super obsessive about like it working out in this way. There was so much uncertainty around when I left my career. Would I find another job? Would we be able to have health insurance? Would my husband be able to find a job that would support us? Like, there was so much massive uncertainty around when we make those big life changes, right? You can't control for those. You have to like step anyway. And that kind of audacity is trained. It is a muscle that can be trained to lean into the discomfort of not knowing, lean in even though you're afraid, lean into that thing that you don't fully know, but you are going to try anyway. So this is what like psychologists would call psychological flexibility. It's not like a personality trait necessarily. What it is like a muscle. It's like the ability to do those kinds of things that I listed off because you've trained yourself to. Women in midlife who have higher levels of psychological flexibility, like report higher levels of personal happiness, lower levels of anxiety. Like, this is a real thing. And so many times people would say, well, like, okay, so how do I do it? Like, how did you make those big changes? Like, lay out the plan for me so I can follow it. And I was really stuck every time people would ask me that, because I was like, well, you just do it. Like, I don't know how. But I've been sitting with that question for the past 6 months, because I really do believe that there are things you can do to work your way up to those big life changes. And like reverse engineering that, I've given it a lot of time and thought and energy into like, okay, so what is that thing? How do people get to that place where they can make these big changes? And here's what I came up with. I call it the hobby philosophy. It's not like I'm asking you to sell everything you own tomorrow, but it's a very low stakes way to practice this in your everyday life. It is the idea of trying something, just being a beginner at something. Like, it may feel uncomfortable because whatever you're trying, whether that's something artsy and crafts like embroidery, or whether that's like, I'd like to, travel more. I'd like to learn another language. I'd like to learn about horse yoga. Like, I don't know, like whatever that is that you want to take on, most likely you will be new at it. And so there will be a learning curve, and those kinds of things, experimenting with a variety of things, trying something, discovering what it is, what your preferences are, what you like, what you don't like in this mechanism of hobbies. It really gives you a lot of data to work with, to be able to step into something that doesn't have to do with your roles in life. Like, if you're a mom, if you're caregiving for your aging parents, if you are a CEO in your corporate job, like hobbies are outside of all of those given roles to you. And it really is something that you get to self-direct solely for you. Like, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. If you want to do hula hooping as your hobby, then go 100% into that, like unapologetically. You know what I mean? And also, the idea of hobbies is so great because you can stop and start a hobby whenever you want. So you're not committing to it in this level of like, well, I am going to do hula hooping and I must work my way up to be a national hula hoopist, which I'm not even sure that's a thing. And then I must teach classes on hula hooping, and then I'm going to quit my job and then be a hula hoop teacher. Like, you don't have to do that. And so much of our life is around that perfection and productivity, and then like optimizing yourself and taking your passion and then optimizing it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about playing. I'm talking about you tried it once, you bought the hula hoop, you tried it for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then you said, I'm done. I'd like to try something else now. No commitment. It's solely about what you want to do. And that's the thing, that's the reason I love hobbies. It's for that. Like, it's very in and out. You can hop in, hop out as you want. You begin listening to yourself, right? This is the muscle that when you work that muscle over and over and over again, you work your way up to being able to do these bigger life changes because you've learned how to exist in that beginner mindset. You've learned how to show up to a class where everybody knows everybody, but you're showing up as a brand new person. You are discovering what you love and what you don't love. Like, wow, I really actually am so fueled by being outdoors and doing long walks. I didn't realize that about myself. Like, it's been incredible for me because I, all through for the past 2 decades, have been living this type of lifestyle. I have redone furniture. I have done photography. I have done some travel writing. I have, learned about raising goats and had a whole herd of goats come to my yard for a week. I have raised chickens. I have done like compost and worms and did a whole ordering of worms and raising of worms in compost. Like, the thing about hobbies is like you get to put yourself back into that mindset of like, what am I curious about? What do I want to know more about? How do I want to play? We learn to stuff that part of us. We learn not to play. We learn curiosity and disappointment are liabilities, and we stay in our lane and we do what we're good at. And you don't waste time. What is the purpose of you doing this? If there's no purpose, then we don't need to pursue it. You know what I mean? So many of us live like that in our everyday lives. And it just doesn't serve us when we're trying to do these big shifts and really like these passion moves where we're in touch with what we want, what we need, what brings us joy, what fuels us. And so I'm just so excited to bring this idea of the hobby philosophy to the world because I have seen it work in my own life and I've seen it work in other people's lives to really bring about this curious way of living that you can't control. I can't tell you do the hobby philosophy and all your dreams will come true, but I can tell you that pursue the hobby philosophy and see what happens. If you're someone that wants to do something really big and you're saying, I really wish I could do whatever that is, drop in the comments below and tell me what it is that you've been dreaming, hoping, desiring to do. I would love to hear about that. I'll read every one of the comments and give it a try. Give the hobby philosophy a try.